In the 1900 block of Josephine Street, just about everyone is family. The Hankton family.
An operation that started trafficking drugs in the mid-90s, which led to violence and murder.
A man once described as one of New Orleans' most dangerous criminals.
Alleged gunman Walter Porter and two of Hankton's cousins, Andre Hankton and Kevin Jackson.
This 22-count indictment has charges that range from money laundering to murder. They used fear, intimidation, and violence to carry out the criminal activity.
The killing of 5 teens in Central City back in 2006. Prosecutors claim that Hankton was the gunman who killed those teens.
Curtis Matthews, you'll remember, was shot and killed in front of the Jazz Daiquiri Lounge on Claiborne. He was the brother of a witness in the Telly Hankton murder trial.
The government says Telly Hankton is the leader of the group. Investigators allege the criminal activity dates back more than 15 years.
Josephine Street, Central City, New Orleans. Home of the notoriously dangerous drug kingpin Telly Hankton. Hankton will forever be memorialized as a street legend in Louisiana history. A man who once bonded out of jail on $1 million bond for murder and continued his killing spree. The man who allegedly eliminated government witnesses and avenged the death of his family at all cost. Telly Hankton sat on top of a $43 million empire. But he is a man who killed, as if he had nothing to lose. Often overshadowed by the violence, murder, and mayhem of the Hankton enterprise in its later years, is how successful Telly Hankton became in the drug business. Long before the fall, Hankton was raking in millions and distributing large quantities of cocaine throughout New Orleans. The federal investigation into the enterprise goes back well into the 90s. It was a family business that ran like a well-oiled machine. But in May of 2000, authorities say that Telly Hankton was storing large amounts of cocaine in the home of his uncle Frank Hankton when 7 kilograms came up missing. Multiple witnesses who were present at the time say Hankton was furious. One witness, a woman who was the girlfriend of Hankton's uncle at the time, claims Hankton came to her home brandishing a firearm, demanding that his drugs be returned. Another witness with ties to the Hankton family said Telly and Frank Hankton had an argument outside of her home on Josephine Street. During the argument, Frank Hankton told Telly Hankton that he was not the only one who had access to the home when the drugs went missing. His daughter Venice Brazeley, who was Telly Hankton's cousin, and her boyfriend at the time also had keys to the residence. According to the witness, after the argument Telly Hankton was heard saying that he was going to kill the couple. A week later, authorities say that Telly Hankton made an attempt on Frank Hankton's life, but Frank Hankton survived. 1 month after that, on June 12 of 2000, Frank Hankton's daughter Venice Brazeley and a man named Calvin Fox were both tragically gunned down. This is just the beginning of the violence that would become associated with the Telly Hankton enterprise in the coming years. In early 2004, Josephine Street was booming. Telly Hankton was supplying a group of younger dealers on the block who handled street-level business, and everybody was making money. But when one man decided to step outside of the natural order of things and begin doing his own business on Josephine Street, Telly Hankton was not happy. Brian Broussard, also known as Pluck, had began selling heroin on Josephine Street. Why Telly Hankton and Brian Broussard were at odds depends on who you ask. People close to Broussard say that Telly Hankton was jealous and didn't like that Broussard was becoming successful and gaining influence. Others say that Telly Hankton didn't want heroin sold on Josephine because he didn't want it associated with his family. Whatever the reason, it was clear that Hankton was not going to let it go. Witnesses say he threatened Broussard on several occasions, even at gunpoint, and Broussard's back was against a wall. Broussard and his group hung out at the home of a woman named Latoya Stewart, who was a witness at the Hankton trial. According to Stewart, Broussard would openly talk about killing Telly Hankton. On one such occasion, a man named Mike Anderson was present. It's unclear how, but the word got back to Hankton that the group had been plotting on him. He approached Michael Anderson first. Anderson told Hankton that it was Broussard who was making the threats. Hankton stalled him out and went searching for Broussard. Not even a few hours later, Broussard and another man named Rodney Robinson, who was also present at the time Broussard was heard making threats 2 days earlier, were both shot at the corner of Saratoga and Josephine Streets. Both men survived, but Broussard was severely wounded. LaToya Stewart testified that Robinson told her Telly Hankton was the shooter not long after the shooting took place. Michael Anderson also happened to be on the street at the time and testified at Hankton's trial that he witnessed Hankton commit the shooting. This shooting sparked a violent chain of events that would bring nationwide attention to the Hankton enterprise and would eventually lead to its demise.